Okay, we're still on the very beginning of this book, chapter 4. We haven't really started to deal with mediumship per se yet. We are now dealing with the chapter of theories, which is quite important for us to understand, and always going to remind everyone to put the book in its historical time when we had nothing, absolutely nothing to guide us in order to understand this new idea that was coming to us, this third revelation, as we believe it is, Spiritism being the promised consoler. This was the very first baby steps of this new doctrine. And Kardec has to be addressing not only the ones who were paying attention to it, the one who wants to be a part of it, and the ones who absolutely rejected it. And of course, with our intellectual progress, it is natural that we become more investigative, we become more analytical, we start to use their intelligence to question things, and we should before we accept anything, and we should. So every time there's something new comes about, we will have that series of questions, series of investigations to do if you're going to accept, if you're going to participate, if you're going to be a part of it or not. And even with the old ones, we do review those old ideas, those old dogmas, and put them to a test, put them to reason and see if they are still valid, they still carry any value for us to continue to follow those old stuff. And of course, when the Spiritism comes in, there was a bunch of theories. There was a lot of people who would see it with their own lenses of the eyes, right? Based on their own experiences, based on their own beliefs, based on their own prejudices, and based on their own ulterior motives. And cannot take that apart of what makes us or how we see things, right? And Kardec takes the time to address all those theories that have been created in regarding to the phenomena of mediumship. Here we are dealing primarily with the phenomena of mediumship, a little bit of intellectual, but as going of the physical, I'm sorry, as going to read here is falling more in the intellectual phenomena and all kinds of theories of how that happened, how someone is able to write the thoughts of someone else came about, right? And Kardec would consider those with the true desire to understand and the true desire to explore, to experiment things. And would let us know and let clear for us that for those who are well-intended, who wants to understand things, who brings their doubts, we should provide them with as much information as we have to give them and let them make their own decisions. Those who already come with stones ready to stone us because we are from the devil, there is not much that we can do, right? But there is a bunch of well-intended people, and Kardec himself was one of them. If you remember in the beginning, or before the beginning of the doctrine, and the sciences was happening in France, in every corner there was mediumistic phenomenon happening. Kardec didn't want to be a part of it. Saying, I don't have time for this, it's foolish, and this and that, until he realized there was a group of individuals that deserved his respect and attention for their intellectual and moral position. That would not be individuals that would be interested in foolishness. So he participated, and from that point on, he went and did the investigation. So he speaks to us with authority to someone who initially doubt, like most of us, perhaps would, but take the second step, recognizing that there are individuals that of good moral qualities involved in this thing, that, and therefore this thing deserves some consideration. And third, the most important, did the work, did the investigation. When after and study before come out and provides to us with his response to all of these theories. I think it's very important to mention that the people you come in with a lot of theories, with a lot of idea how this happens without doing the proper research and investigation. Kardec speaks with authority for doing that, for taking that third step. Not only creating the theories, that's very easy, but put his own theories to experiment and being impartial, or not allowing his prejudice, because he also had his, as we all have, but not allow his prejudices, not allow his ulterior motives to see clearly the results of those experiments and see the result of those experiments just as what they are, the results of an experiment, without any bias. And that's the authority that Kardec has when he brings his response to all of these theories. So he starts with the ones that are, as I'm going to read the first sentence, he starts with the ones that doesn't deserve that consideration. And he says over here, for the first point, we leave behind the theories of absolute denial. So the ones of absolute denial are the ones of charlatanism, and he told us, I'll be the first one to tell you, there was a lot of charlatanism happening. And when I did my experiment, I saw a bunch of people trying to make a buck out of the credulity of people, or out of the interest of people, or just be entertained. So they provide the entertainment. It is true that there is false wine out there. But does it mean that there is not true wine? It is true that there is fake mediums producing fake phenomena, but it's also true that there is true mediums producing true mediumistic phenomena. Then there is the madness theory. There is basically a self-deception, someone in a state of madness saying things that come out for their own mind. Then there was the hallucination theory, that individuals would go perhaps to magnetism in a state of outer state of mind and start to hallucinate. And there was the crackling tendon theory that is more associated with the physical phenomena, in which somebody figured out there had to be a tremendous anatomist who started believing that the crackling of a tendon on the tibial, the lower part of our leg, was able to produce all the crackling sounds that would be heard during the phenomena that was described as the ripping or the crackling phenomena. Great stuff, theories that people come out with, that of course does not hold any value on any individual's mind who is free to think. You see all those theories does not hold any water. And then he starts with the theories that it's more, okay, it has makes more sense actually, right? And he starts with the physical theory number 32. Zoraida, please, unless anybody has any questions, any clarification before I continue.
Okay. Could the letters be a little larger?
Sure.
Just a little.
Okay. Better.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Number 42, physical cause theory. From this point on, we will leave behind the theories of absolute denial. Having admitted the reality of the phenomenon, the first thought that naturally occurred to those who witnessed them was to attribute the movements to magnetism, electricity, or the action of some kind of fluid, that is, to an exclusively material and physical cause. There was nothing unreasonable about this theory, and it would have been prevailed if the phenomenon had limited to purely mechanical effects. A circumstance that even seemed to corroborate in certain cases was the increase in the phenomenon's power because of the number of individuals present, that each one of them could be seen as an element of human electric battery. As we have already stated, what characterizes a true theory is its ability to explain all the facts. If one single fact contradicts it, it is because it is wrong, incomplete, or too rigid, which is what applied in this case. The movements and raps revealed signs of intelligence in that they obeyed a will and responded to thought. Thus, they had to have an intelligent cause behind them, and since the effect ceased to merely physical, the cause itself had to be something other than physical. Therefore, the theory of an exclusive action by a material agent was abandoned and now only resurfaces among those who make a priori judgment without having seen anything. Hence, the crucial point is to attest to an intelligent action, a point that can convince whomever wants to make the effort to observe.
Okay, so the physical cause theory is exactly that, the physical cause. So all the phenomena that happens has a physical explanation, should be answered and explained through our physical sciences. Kardec was a student and participated extensively in magnetism. So he understood the power of some kind of energies to have an effect in inanimate matter. We had already electricity at the time that is invisible and produces everything that electricity produces in our lives. We are completely dependent on this kind of energy. The steam was already out there, the ability to make a train move with the power of steam was already there. So we had some information of energies and powers, physical powers, natural powers that are able to move things and maybe things that do very, very heavy lifting in those days already. So if the phenomenon was purely of a physical nature, that's explained. We're done with that. You guys are right. But the problem is that it's not. There is an intelligence behind the phenomenon. The phenomenon produced also has an intelligence aspect to it, to which none of those physical powers can be an answer to it. So I may have the magnetic ability to make, let's say, and some of the spirits done, to levitate a fork, levitate a spoon, and even to make it move to the right or to the left and let it fall on the ground eventually, but would not be able to make it write intelligently the correct answer of a question. So it may move A, B, or C, but would not be able to say, if I ask what is 2 plus 2, that inanimate object will not be able to answer it's 4. And if it does answer, then there is a source behind of it, producing that intelligence, produce that ability to to answer a simple arithmetical, mathematical equation. Once you add this intelligent factor to the equation, the physical cost theory loses its value, loses its point. And Kardec says that in science, what he says is, we have already stated what characterizes a true theory is the ability to explain all facts. If one single fact contradicts it, it is because it's wrong, incomplete, or too rigid. So the physical cost theory loses its value because it cannot deal with the intelligent part of the phenomena. If it was only lifting a piano and let it fall, okay, it's explained. We are done with that. But if they make that piano play a song, not only make sounds, but play a song, then there is an intelligence behind of it. And there is none of those forces, magnetic, electric, steam, whatever you may think, that is able to produce an intelligence phenomenon. There must be an intelligence behind of it. Okay? Question, comments? 43?
Yeah, I think it's important here to reinforce that Kardec explores all the avenues. So he doesn't discard anything without going deeper, right? This one, he starts saying, yes, it's very logical that it can be physical effects. So let's analyze it, right? He said it makes sense that those that say that everything is physical, and which is, I think we need to learn from Kardec, right? To be open to receive information and digest it and try to analyze it before reaching preconceived notions or conclusions. So always important to read Kardec and reflect.
And I think that this is extremely important because that's what science is, right? Everybody can come in with theory, right? I can come in with theory of, I don't know, a certain compose that can kill all viruses, and therefore, if you give that thing to every human being, and human being will never get any disease caused by virus. And that may sound good, okay? That compound may sound good, okay? There was a smart guy just recently that suggests that good Clorox to human beings, right? And gonna kill all the viruses. All right, let's put that to a test. You want to be the first one to drink some Clorox and see what happens, right? Clorox may kill all the viruses, but it's what's gonna kill us. And then it's true. Then you're gonna kill all the virus, all the disease caused by virus because you're gonna kill all the human beings. No human beings, no human disease. Is that what you want? So you have to put everything to a test. And this is very important. You have to consider all the aspects of that theory. If one is wrong, everything loses its value. Everything has to be checked. And what's happening today that, when Socrates suggests to us that we should only speak if it's the truth, if it's good, and if it's useful, all three things together. At that time, the words of an average person would travel maybe the most in 2 kilometers radius, right? You don't want to go too far. Today, we can put our thoughts in the social media, and it can travel all the 5 continents in a matter of seconds. Plato when he's opened his academy, he would not allow anyone under than 30 years old because he understood the power of word and the risk of misusing words could carry. So in his academy, the work of the oratorio, the speech, he would only accept individuals who was considered mature to make good use of the words. Today I can put my thoughts, any one of us can put our thoughts, and everyone will read. And if you start accepting things without seeing the source, who is that individual? What is the ultimate motive of this individual? What is the background of this individual? What is this individual trying to achieve, putting out those informations? We can generate all this chaotic situation that we live today. So what Ron is saying here is to apply all those lessons in our daily lives to prevent, to defend ourselves, to protect ourselves of all of those individuals who just want to talk with no reason, who has no consideration to the importance, to the value, the strength of words, and the suggestion of Socrates to speak only if it's the truth, if it's good, if it's useful, have never crossed their minds. And anyone can go ahead and spread their thoughts throughout the world in a matter of seconds. We need to educate ourselves to be careful, to use what Kardec does over here. But before I talk about this, let me take a look at what this is first.
But also understanding that if everything is the way it is, it's because we are progressing, we're moving forward. So the availability of information to everyone at all times happens because humanity is in an evolutionary stage that it should be able to deal with. If we are not yet, that's our problem. We need to learn. We need to also progress as humanity to deal with it. But to go against the law of progress and saying that this shouldn't have happened, it's too much information, we shouldn't have access to that, to forbid access is just to go back to the times of where the church had all the information and didn't allow anyone else to have access to it, right? The fact that we have access to all the information means that we are prepared to deal with that. If we are dealing with in a correct manner or not, that's a different story.
Yeah, well, naturally, which means that now you have much greater responsibility. With the greater rights come greater responsibility. If I have the right to express my thoughts out there, I have the responsibility to be very careful what I'm putting out there, and being more careful with I'm accepting as truth. It places us, because of the law of progress, we are able to deal with those things. Are we using the tools available to us to make things better for ourselves forward? That is the question. But definitely, if you are allowed to have those technology in our hands, it's because, at least in theory, we are able to deal with them and make them useful and not something regretful.
And it's another sign of a transition of the planet to a world of regeneration, right? We have to be able to be better users of our information, of the sources of everything that is available to us out there, right? We don't need to be prevented from having access to things. But again, every transition creates confusion, creates a lot of challenges. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Number 43.
43, yes. The reflection theory. Once it was recognized that an intelligent action was involved, the source of that intelligence still had to be determined. It was thought that it might be the intelligence of the medium or the participants themselves, which was then reflected like light or sound waves. This is quite possible that only experience would finally be able to provide the last word on the matter. Before long, however, we noticed that this theory was completely removed from any purely materialistic idea. In order for the intelligence of the participants to be reproduced indirectly, it would be necessary to admit the existence of human beings of a principle that was independent of their organism. If the thought that was expressed were always that of participants, the reflection theory could be confirmed, but even reduced to such a proportion, wouldn't the phenomenon be of greatest interest? Wouldn't it be remarkable if thought could resound with an inert object and translate itself into motion and sound? Wouldn't there be something about it that might arouse the curiosity of scholars? Then why do those who exhaust themselves searching a nerve fiber disdain this subject so much? As we have stated, only experience could provide the last word concerning this theory, and experience has disproved it instead, because in such instance and by the most positive facts, it has shown that the thought thus expressed might not only be foreign to the thought of the participants, but is often completely contrary to it. This contradicts all preconceived ideas and frustrates all expectations. In fact, when I think white but receive black in response, I cannot believe that the response is actually my own. Some opponents find support in cases where the thought that is expressed and the thought of the participants are identical. But what does that prove except that the participants can think like the communicating intelligence? We do not mean that they must always be different from each other. During a conversation, when the person you are speaking with expresses a thought similar to your own, do you say that his or her thought had come from you? It only requires a few contrary and well-proven examples to show that this theory is incomplete. Furthermore, how can one use the thought reflection theory to explain the writing produced by persons who do not even know how to write? Responses of the highest philosophical reach expressed through illiterate individuals, answers given to mental nonverbal questions or formulated in a language unknown by the medium, or 1,000 other facts that can leave no doubt as the independence of the manifesting intelligence. Any contrary opinion could only result from a deficient observation. If the presence of an outside intelligence is mentally proven by the nature of the responses, it is physically proven by the phenomenon of direct writing, that is, writing that is produced spontaneously without a pen or pencil, without being touched, and in spite of all the precautions taken to avoid any kind of trickery. The intelligent character of this phenomenon cannot be put in doubt. Thus, there is more than simple fluidic action involved. Moreover, the spontaneity of the thought that is expressed independently of all expectations and apart from any formulated question prevents it from being seen as a reflection of the participants' thoughts. The reflection theory is quite unflattering in certain cases. When a group of honest individuals in a meeting unexpectedly receive a grossly revolting communication, attributing it to one of them would be committing a serious indelicacy, and everyone would no doubt promptly repudiate the notion.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So the reflection theory, as you can see here, is, I see that personally as a huge step forward in the accepting of the phenomena, and is one step, is a big step forward, accepting mediumship per se. Okay, it, as Kardec says, recognize that intelligent action was involved. Okay, which completely do 180 degrees from the physical cause theory, right? Now say, okay, we accept there is an intelligence. Huge step forward, right? So admits the phenomenon and admits there is intelligence behind it, but attributes that intelligence to be of the medium, him or herself, or of another participant in that meeting, in that group of individuals. Which is also a huge step forward, because if you accept that our thoughts, let's assume that the thoughts does not come from the medium, but from someone else in that meeting, you have admitted that my thoughts could reach the medium and influence of what that medium is going to say or going to write, or could this apply for both physical and intelligent phenomena also, that would contribute to that object to move in one or another direction or write an intelligent answer to an intelligent question. So everything over here is very valid. I think it's natural to create that theory. The theory that everything comes from the medium is actually in spiritualism itself, called animism. Okay. And Kardec says that if I've just stopped there, that now we admit there is an intelligence behind of the phenomenon, and you admit the phenomenon is real, and you admit that thoughts can go from point A to point B, important, without sounds, right? Without words, because there was no sounds, no words when this my thought reach the thought of someone else. It's already a great step forward in understanding a little bit more of the phenomenon of mediumship. But we cannot stop right there. We have to do a little more research, and only experiment, only research would provide us the answers. As it says here, as we stated, only experience could provide the last word concerning this theory. And experience has disproved it instead. Because in each instance, and by most positive facts, it has shown that the thought thus expressed must not only be foreign to the thoughts of the participants, but often completely contrary to it. And you got to go back when Kardec says, if one fact goes against our theory, then the whole theory falls. That's something important in science that I have to consider also. Everything so far was good. There is an intelligence, the phenomenon is real, thoughts travel. What's wrong here? It can only be from the medium herself or the incarnate participants. Now we can say that the incarnate participants in that medium. Well, let's test it. Let's see what the answer provided. Well, the answer provided, and he goes down here on the furthermore here, when it says, furthermore, how can we use the thought reflection theory to explain the writing produced by persons who don't even know how to write? Responses of their highest philosophical reach expressed through illiterate individuals. Answers given to mental, nonverbal questions or formulated in a language unknown by the medium, or 1,000 other facts that can leave no doubt as to the independence of the manifesting intelligence. So this is the big problem that this theory has and becomes a unvaluable or a wrong theory, if one would say, because the thoughts expressed in that communication is completely contrary to the thoughts of the medium individuals on that meeting. Mediums have written, they were to write on a piece of paper, intelligent responses. But when you go to see the medium, when the person is out of the mediumistic state, that the medium is not able to write. How can you get someone who are not able to write to now in the mediumistic state being able to write? That it expresses highly philosophical theories of individuals who are basically illiterate. That brings about, let's say, statements of Pythagoras or of I don't know, Rousseau, but someone who never read, have no idea. If you ask them who is Pythagoras, who is Rousseau, will say, I have no idea who these people are. But in the mediumistic state, are able to write perfectly the statements of those individuals, the theory of those individuals, and so forth. So on is write a piece or speak something in a different language that's completely foreign to that medium, him or herself. So those disprove the possibility of the reflection theory. It's very simple. We cannot give what we don't have. We cannot pass to others what I don't carry within myself. So the collective theory, the reflection theory, although being a huge step up in my personal understanding here, belief here, because it admitted the phenomena, because it admitted an intelligence behind of the phenomena, it fell short because it does recognize that that intelligence behind of the phenomena is someone or something other than the medium and the incarnate participants in that meeting. Questions? And he makes I think it's actually comical, this very last theory over here, that it could really disrupt social order, right? If you really believe that that is the fact, that the thoughts expressed there is from the medium himself or the someone in that meeting, if the message received in that meeting, because I want to put his word over here.
Grossly revolting
Grossly
communication.
revolt communication attributed to one of them. So let's say in our meeting, we receive a message that says something that would be not socially accepted against me, accuse me of all kinds of things, being a pedophile, being this, being that, being a drunkard on the street and everything else. If I believe in this theory, I would say that the medium or someone in that medium is attacking me personally. How could we continue with having that meeting? It's almost comical. We have had cases in our leadership meetings in which at the end the meeting say, well, the spirit wants to say something about one of you, but I hold it and say it. I would say, go ahead and say it. I mean, I have nothing to hide, and it's not pure. But what I'm saying, that may be a case in which a real mediumistic phenomenon, a real spirit may suggest to the spirit to say or to write things against one of the group. And that could happen. I mean, there are spirits over there that want to create problems, that wants to distract, wants to stop the work that is being done. And if it's affect our pride, it may cause that. But that does not mean that it comes from the medium. It does not mean that it comes from someone or the participant. In natural, it comes from a spirit who wants to create a chaotic situation in the group. If those who the names what being attached to that next communication is prideful enough to take it seriously. So it could happen. But the fact that a medium says or writes something against another one in the group, it comes from the spirit, it's not coming from none of the participants of the group, and should be understood. We're going later to discuss that the medium is always in control of the communication. The medium will express what the medium thinks should be expressed as well. And that is something to be discussed how it's possible later when we get to that point. All right.
This was some 80 years before Chico Xavier received his first book, the Book of Poems, that has more than 100 different poems from different poets, discarnated poets from Brazil and Portugal, and you know, you just have to analyze how someone that hasn't finished, hasn't even entered into high school, has finished just barely primary school, could receive so many different poems, so many different styles, and very similar to the styles of the deceased poet. You know, it would be harder to explain than to accept the phenomenon of mediumship, right?
Yeah, and you see how somewhat privileged we are now to have all these available to us. Can you imagine the hard work that Kardec has to do with having nothing on his hands to show except his own experiments?
Yeah. The one thing that he had was people that didn't know how to read and write, right? That worked as a medium. But this was a phenomenon. Nowadays, we don't have many people who don't know how to read and write, right? But at that time, it was one of the things that he could use definitely to prove that something was there was something beyond the person. Next one is a
collective soul.
Okay.
That's an interesting one.
That's a crazy one.
Number 44, the collective soul theory. This is a variation of the preceding one. According to this theory, it is only the medium's soul that actually expresses itself, but it identifies itself with the souls of many other persons who may be present or absent, thereby forming a collective whole that brings together the aptitudes, intelligence, and knowledge of each person. However, the brochure that divulges this theory, entitled La Lumière, seems to be in a style that is rather obscure. We must confess that having comprehended little of what we read and only cite this work from memory. Besides, this theory represents more of an individual opinion, like so many others, and it has won few adherents. Aimé Tepes is the name used by the author to designate the collective being whom he represents. His motto is, "There is nothing hidden that must not be revealed." This proposition, however, is obviously wrong, since there are an infinite number of things that humans cannot and must not know about. One would be presumptuous indeed to claim to be able to penetrate all the secrets of God.
So to this one, I start by saying what Kardec says over here. It seems to be a style that is rather obscure, and I think obscure is exactly what this whole thing is. And it comes from Kardec. We must confess that at having comprehended little of what we read, we only cited this work from memory. So even Kardec, with that brilliant mind, understood little of what this theory is, and it's very confusing and brings about things that is completely incomprehensible to us. For one thing, it accepts the mediumship. Okay. Another thing, it accepts the intelligent phenomena, the intelligence behind of it, which makes it somewhat comparable with the last one, as Kardec says over here. Is the combination of all those thoughts together that creates the problem for us to understand. It says that it's only the medium souls that actually express itself. Okay, so it seems like the medium is the one who actually expresses itself. But what it expresses is a combination of all the thoughts that received from all of the participants in that meeting. Okay, it's only the medium souls that actually express itself, but it identifies itself with the souls of many other persons who may be present or even absent. So I was wrong here. Present and absent persons in there. Thereby form a collective whole that brings together the aptitudes, intelligence, and knowledge of each person. So it's a fruit salad of thoughts. It's a fruit salad of aptitudes, of intelligences, of knowledges that all mix together, and the mirror express that. How is that possible? How is that possible? This individual, Marty Terpsey, that identifies himself as being the author of this theory, tells us most there is nothing hidden that must not be revealed. Personally, I think it's true. I agree. But it doesn't say when and how and to whom. I don't think that God have created things to remain constantly in unrevealed. In the Spirit's book, in the very beginning of the chapter, Desert God, it says that there are things that only God knows. So perhaps there are quite a few things that only God knows. But I believe that in our stage, most of the things that we question have an answer, and that we reach that answer. And I say that because we are so unevolved that we are not even able to come out with questions that are reserved only to God. I don't think it requires a tremendous level of intellectual and moral progress to even come out with those questions. So if, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, you say that men could fly from crossing the oceans in a matter of hours, don't say you were crazy. And perhaps 1,000 years ago, people not even be able to formulate that theory, that idea that someone could cross the ocean and fly in a matter of hours. Our thoughts are not very eloquent enough to formulate those kind of theories, perhaps. So I think that everything they're able to question here today, and that's quite personal, I must say here, there are things, those things that are hidden from us will be revealed. But the question is when, to whom, how. We just had spoken the advancement of technology that is placing us with the responsibility to being very smart on how to use it. And it is a progress, undeniably. It is meant to be good. It meant to have a enzymatic factor in our progress, but if you use it correctly. I believe there is things that we are not ready to have those answers yet, but eventually we will. But again, how, when, to whom. And there are things that it is for our protection not to be revealed yet, but eventually will. So this theory of collective souls, it just doesn't hold any water when you think that a media will be able to grasp all the thoughts of individuals present and absent, put up that fruit salad of energies, thoughts, and express it. It just holds no water at all. And if even for Kardec, he commanded to confess they have comprehended little, I'm not even gonna go there. And personally, I don't think it deserves much attention at all.
Yeah, but I'm just going to point out that there are still many theories out there nowadays that have some similarities with this, right? So this hasn't disappeared. There is this theory that we are all parts of God, that we are not created by God, but we are part of God, that left God to experience our own individual experiences, and we're going to go back to God, which for me it's a theory also that doesn't make sense, but it's out there and a lot of people follow it and believe in it. So that's if you think of God as the collective soul and everything emanates from God, you can go in the rabbit hole there very easily.
Yeah, again, we can, but to associate the reason to it, that's what becomes the problem to me.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't hold water, right? When you
Right.
start, if we all came from our parts from God, means that God is not perfect, right? It's losing pieces.
No,
It's one theory.
And you see, the discussion that we're having today of being really careful and smart and making decisions of what to accept and not to accept and question things become more and more relevant. Because anyone who becomes an adept to this theory is not making the check marks that Kardec suggests to us. If anything contradicts on that check mark and he cannot check it, this whole theory falls apart. And João just said here, this theory of pantheism, does it mean that God is not perfect? Because we are not. If the parts of me that are not perfect, then God is not perfect. This whole theory falls. If individuals are not able to reason that and not accept that idea, I think the discussion is over. This becomes very difficult to discuss.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's important to know that Kardec discussed at that time, and it's still out there in different forms and different. You have all things out there that are, that's why it's important for us to put everything into reason, right? To try to understand rationally, and if we can, let's not accept or reject. Put it aside and wait.
And as being very biased as I am towards spirituals, to me that proves reincarnation right there. Again, I'm being very biased.
Okay.
Okay.
Number 45. Somnambulism.
That's João's favorite word, somnambulism.
Theory, yeah.
The greatest problem in my spiritist studies.
Okay. This theory used to have many adherents, and even now it still has a few, like the collective soul theory. This one holds that all the intelligent communications proceed from the soul or spirit of the mediums themselves. However, in order to explain how mediums can address subjects that are outside their rim of understanding, rather than considering them as having a collective soul, it attributes to it a momentary overstimulation of mediums' mental faculties. In other words, a sort of somnambulistic or ecstatic state that excites and develops their intelligence. One cannot deny that in certain cases, such a case could have an influence, but it would be quite enough to have seen how the majority of these mediums operate in order to understand that this theory cannot resolve all the cases. It is the exception rather than the rule. It could be the answer if mediums always possessed the air of visionary or an ecstatic, an appearance that could stimulate perfectly if they wanted to put on a comedy show. But where does the inspiration come from when mediums write like a machine without any awareness of what they're receiving, without any emotion, without being at all concerned with what they're doing, all in an entirely distracted manner, even laughing and dealing with other matters at the same time? One might understand the overexcitation of thought, but not how it could enable mediums to write who do not know how to, and even less when the communications are transmitted through raps or with the help of a planchette or basket. Over the course of this work, we shall see what cause must be attributed to the influence of the medium's ideas, but the cases in which the outside intelligence is revealed through uncontestable signs are so numerous and obvious that they can leave no doubt as to their true origin. The error of the most of the theories that appeared at the beginning of Spiritism lay in the drawing of generalized conclusions from a few isolated incidents.
So in order to, and here again, we see how the hardship of Kardec, in order to better explain this somnambulist theory, or better yet, in order to say what this theory does not hold water as well, we can kind of advance our study, something that we're going to see ahead in this book that I have not seen yet, but that you had seen the Spirits, the Spirits book, that I have ever seen some of our readings and the studies of André Luiz books. We know that we are not only the individuality, the personality that you are expressing today, this incarnation. In other words, I know that I am more as an eternal spirit than Elmo. I know that I, as eternal spirit, have had many other experiences that I, as Elmo, have, as eternal spirit, have being born in Brazil and in the New World. Chances are that I was born in the so-called Old World as well, right? In previous incarnations, and therefore I have learned different languages, that I have learned of different customs, and those are not being expressed now by the personality named Elmo. The Elmo now he speaks Portuguese, Spanish, and in English a little bit of all those three. But chances are that Elmo likely had lived in other words in which none of those three languages was the language of that time. I don't know, Greek, Latin, Arabic, some of the African languages, many possibilities. And I know that all those things that I have conquered to my own effort, that I developed for myself, is part of Elmo, the eternal spirit, not the Elmo, not the personality expressed as Elmo. So in an outer state, I would be able to retrieve, to bring back on all those knowledges and experience of the past, something that I do not express right now, right? A good example, easy to understand, is language. Maybe I was some few incarnations back, I was a slave in Greece, and I have to know Greek. And I have to know the old Greek of those times. That's not lost. What's mine is mine. I conquered, it's mine. It's not being expressed now. It is possible that in a state of trance, an altered state of consciousness, I can retrieve back and bring that old Greek and speak or write in that language. That's called animism, when I bring information from my own self that's in my past, or maybe my past of this incarnation that I do not recall anymore, something that happens to me when I was 4 years old that I cannot retrieve anymore, but in a state of altered state of consciousness, I can retrieve that, right? And I can write or say those things. That is called animism. In a mediumistic phenomena, a medium may have that anemic communication, writing of himself or from oneself. What Kardec's saying here is that, yeah, that can happen, but this is this exception, not the rule. This is 1 in a million. This can indeed happen, okay? That the communication being expressed comes from the medium, him or herself, retrieving, bringing back experiences or knowledges, languages that one does not express as now in this present incarnation. But again, this is the exception and not the rule. When those who formulated this somnambulistic somnambulism theory, they say that attributes to a momentary overstimulation of the medium's mental faculties. In other words, a sort of somnambulistical ecstasy state that excites and develops the intelligence. Okay, I just said that we could have the anemic thing. But to excite and develop the intelligence, how are we going to develop intelligence of things that we do not have, that we do not know? So I use the example, perhaps I'm a medium, and perhaps I spoke ancient Greek in the past, and I write in ancient Greek. But what if I never had experienced that attribute? I could not do it now because I don't have it to give it, right? So the theory of the somnambulism is one of the exceptions and not of the rule. Moreover, and perhaps more important, which definitely does not check and eliminate that theory as not being true, is the fact that, let's say that now I am the medium and I received the message, and the message signed there, Robert Kennedy, whatever. All right. So it's signed John Smith. And the question, who is John Smith? And John Smith will say, oh, in my last incarnation, I live in that small town in Germany, and my parents were such and such, and I died on that date, and the cause of that was such and such. And no one knows that John Smith. no one has any idea of even that town, but somebody does the effort and locates that city in Germany, and we know the Germans are very good at keeping records. And they go back and say, yeah, indeed, this is Johannes Smith that was born at that date, that was written by the medium, the parents. Yeah, he checks. He died on that date, and the cause of that was that, and everything checks. So now, do you explain that it comes from the medium him herself in a somnambulistic state? How will you retrieve those information that that individual, that medium, and everybody in that room have no idea of that Johannes Smith? And then you go there and you do all the checks and everything, check. And Kardec, as Kardec have done the exercise of doing this kind of investigation. When you go to the to heaven and hell, and that is the testimonium of the spirits, and lots of spirits give their name. I think Kardec did the study of going, did this person really exist? And it's factual. They see over here the cause of death and everything checked. So how can you explain now that that communications are the results of a Sonnenberg state, that everything comes from the medium himself? It just doesn't check. And if one fact does not check, then the whole theory does not hold water, and it carries no value anymore. But it is a good theory, personally, I think. Possibility. That's why you have to do the experiment. That's how to check everything. And when you do that, there are a few things over there that does not check. And then you have to cross that theory as someone that as one that holds any value. And again, very important, do not take the exception as the rule. The exception is the exception. And there is, as they say, always an exception to the rule. Comments, questions? All right.
Number 46.
Yeah, 46 is,
Yes.
I think is I'm going to read now, but I think is going back. It's almost like Kardec gave the ones that are totally crazy, come with the ones that are reasonable, and then come back to one that's totally crazy again. So let's see what it says.
Okay. 46, the pessimistic, diabolical, or demotic theory. Here we shall enter upon another order of ideas, having proven the intervention of an outside intelligence. It was then necessary to try to understand its nature. The easiest means would undoubtedly have been to simply axe it. But certain individuals did not see this as a sufficient guarantee. Instead, they preferred to see all the manifestations as the work of the devil. According to them, only the devil or demons could communicate in such a manner. Although this theory is little accepted nowadays, it enjoys some credit for a while in virtue of the special character of those who sought to make it prevail. It would point out, ironically, that the adherents of the demonic theory should not be regarded as being among spiritist adversaries, but rather just the opposite. Whether they are demons or angels, the beings who communicate are always incorporeal. Thus, admitting the manifestations of demons is the same as admitting the possibility of communicating with the invisible world, or at least with a segment of that world. As unreasonably as it may be, believing that such communications are the exclusive product of demons would not appear to be impossible as long as spirits were considered as beings who were created outside the scope of humankind. However, since we know that spirits are only the souls of those who have already lived, this theory has lost all its prestige, and one might add, all likelihood of being true for it would mean that all such souls are demons, whether they are the souls of fathers, children, or friends, that we ourselves will become demons when we die. Consequently, to many people, it is not a very flattering and consoling doctrine. It would be very difficult to convince a mother that a dear child whom she has lost and who, after death, came to provide her with proof of its affection and identity, was actually a friend instead. It is true that among spirits there are those who are quite evil and who deserve no more than to be called demons, and for a very simple reason. There are humans who are quite evil, and death brings them no immediate improvement. The issue is to know whether it is only they who can communicate with us. To those who believe so, we would propose the following questions.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so before I jump to the questions, let's see what this theory is suggesting to us. So first of all, it does accept the phenomenon. Good. Second, it accepts that the phenomena has an intelligence behind of it. Good. That the ones providing the answers to the question, that providing the messages via medium is an intelligent being. Good. So far, everything is wonderful. Now, only the devil or demons can communicate with humans to provide those communications. That's where we have a problem, right?
Mm.
Certain individuals do not see this as a sufficient guarantee. Instead, they prefer to see all manifestations as a work of the devil. You remember when we started the studies this morning, I went back and see what I have said it was, and I said that it's totally acceptable, important, necessary, that every time that we meet something new, a new theory, a new project, that you question, that you create our own theories. And most of us will do that. That's why you have intelligence. And we will develop the theories based on what we have. I cannot develop my own theories on what João thinks, but on what I think. And then when I discuss with João, we can have an interchange of those thoughts and perhaps agree or disagree with things. But I come out with my own things, and I come out with my things based on my own experiences, on my own beliefs, on my own prejudices, and very important, on my own ulterior motives. And I think this theory is based on ulterior motives. It can only be based on individuals who have a need to go against spiritism, to deny spiritism and the phenomena for whatever their motives are. And one of the powerful instruments that is often used is to say it's the work of the devil. It's gonna lead you to hell. Because come from in that particular part of the world from a very strong dogmatic beliefs in heaven and hell, the existence of the devil, the existence of demons that tries to get us away from God. Once you say that don't go there, that's thing of the devil, that'll be enough to keep a lot of people from going there. Or even considering the possibility of reasonables about those things. So this kind of beliefs, pessimistic, if the word pessimistic, it already takes anyone away from it. Diabolical, demoniac theory has to be reserved for religious fanatics. Why? Because they believe. in the demon, they believe in the devil. Okay. And they are prisoners of their hostage of their own dogmas. And they are hostages of the so-called false Christ that Christ told us. There shall be a false Christ, there shall be wolves closed in sheep clothes. It can only be for those individuals who create and sustain this kind of theory. Now, if you believe that spirits are just us outside of the physical body, it's just us living the spiritual world, then you recognize that amongst us there are good and bad people. There are people with moral values and people lacking moral values. There are people that want to enlighten us, and there are people who want to hold us hostage in ignorance. And if one can communicate, the ones that are ignorant, why would not the ones who are not ignorant? Kardec makes a point over here. I don't know if I agree with that those who create this theory should not be regarded as being among spiritist adversaries, but rather just the opposite. Whether they are demons or angels, the beings who communicate are always incorporeal. Thus, admitting the manifestation of demons is the same as admitting the possibility of communicating with the invisible world, or at least with a segment of that world. So Kardec says that it's a step forward. It agrees with spirituals that communication with invisible beings is possible. Unfortunately, it is only with the evil ones. If it does help the doctrine itself, I question and I personally don't believe. It leads people away from it and creates this fear of the theory itself. If I deal with this thing, I'm gonna end up in hell. And some people will not even try to understand it because they fear the devil and they fear hell very much so. But Kardec suggests a bunch of questions that I could ask those individuals to see if the theory holds and what are. Questions, comments? Okay, so what will be those questions?
Okay. Number 1, are there both good and evil spirits? Number 2, is God more powerful than evil spirits or demons, if you prefer? Number 3, affirming that only evil spirits communicate is the same as saying that good spirits cannot. If such is the case, then it either happens by God's will or against it. If it is against God's will, then evil spirits are more powerful than God. And if it is by God's will, then why, in all the divine goodness, wouldn't God allow good spirits to communicate in order to offset the influence of the others?
Okay.
Okay.
So one thing in the spiritism that it's extremely important, and the whole theory holds no water, has no foundation, is the existence of one and only God, whose all love, whose all justice is absolute perfection. And only one God, right? And this God that is omnipresent, omnipotent, has absolute power of everything. We have to take this, although Kardec develops a whole chapter in Genesis to the attributes of God, so that God must be infinite, and develops quite a few pages explaining why a God, to be God, must be infinite. Why a God, in order to be God, must be good and just, and develop a whole few pages saying what it must be. What must God be? One and only in order to be God, right? So we have to start here with those questions. Is there a God? And this God is all love, is all powerful, is omnipotent, is omnipresent. Do you check all those things? If someone says, oh no, God is all those things, but it is on the other side a evil that equals in power with God. So it ceases to be one and only God. Now there is two gods. Because they are equal in the opposite sides, then it's true. They're just on the opposite side. It does not hold the water of the existence of God, and therefore not the existence of evil, of the devil, of the demon, right? In question, are there good and evil spirits? Not talking about us, right? When we leave this world and go back to the spiritual world, do we transform ourselves into evil, into angels, or into demons, or continue to be what we are? If we are most of us a little good, a little bad. Some other people a lot more good than bad, and some people a lot more bad than good. Do they transform something else? So the answer would be yes, there are good and evil spirits, because there are good and evil human beings. And when you go back to the spiritual world, we do not transform something else. We are what we are in a continuous state of progress, eliminating the evil and conquering the good slowly, right? Each one of us and its own pace. Is God more powerful than evil spirits? Is God more powerful than evil spirits or demons, if you prefer? If you assume the existence of this omnipotent, omnipresent, or good God, would you say that this God is more powerful than evil spirits, the demons, than the devil? To this question, the answer becomes really, really, it changes a lot in accordance to what you believe. Not saying specifically, but yesterday I was in the sauna. And I don't know what happened to the sauna. I think the heat hit people's mind, and everybody becomes an expert in everything. Everyone becomes PhD in medicine, in sociology, and I wish I could be completely deaf when I get in the sauna, so I could stay there longer, because the thoughts of those people get me out of there very quickly. But there is an individual saying how this world is going downhill, and completely in defiance of law of progress, that actually, if there is a law, is a contra progress. That we are determined to ruin ourselves, to destroy ourselves. And one of the reasons is because of the devil is winning, or has won the battle, that the newest generation, they were about more seniors gathered at that time, and they have chosen the devil. They are following the devil. The devil were more powerful than God and conquered them all. And this individual was not questioning, he was stating those things beyond discussion. And it comes from his religion. It comes from one of the things he said many times was, they do not fear God anymore. If you don't fear God, then the devil takes a hold of you. So if you put that question, is God more powerful than evil or demons, if you prefer? I don't know what that God would, the person would answer, because right now he's saying that the devil has won already over God. But if you believe in one and only God is all over injustice, is omnipresent and omnipotent, then the answer is that God is more powerful than anything and everything, period. We even say more than that God is the only power. If there is evil spirits, even those evil spirits are under the power of God, is a creation of God. So there is no there's no other way to say that no, God is more powerful. God is not only that is the only power, but that would be contested by a lot of people depending on their culture, depend on their belief, still to these days. and if those individuals have that state of mind that I heard yesterday, and if that individual believes that the possibility of communication, it is very plausible that this communication only comes from the demon, from the devil, for those who wants to lead you astray from God. So what I'm trying to say is that I witness that there will be different answers for this question.
Where was it again, Elmo?
I was in a sauna in the gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, there is something about the sauna, the heat. Once the individuals get inside of that, they become an expert. They become a PhD in everything. They do not question. They state things that are the most absurd things. And that was, I just listened for a while and I had to leave. But this is happening today. And when you go, I do not use social media, but I hear people talking about it, especially now with this war going on. Things like that happening. Statements like that, lots of it. What do you choose to believe? And based on what you choose to believe? What is your experience? What's your background? What are you studying? What are you reading that lets you accept ideas like that? That the devil is more powerful than God and took the newest generation for him being the devil, and therefore we are going to downhill now. Not questioning, but stating it.
Well, time will change.
Yeah, the only thing that I said is, I think there's only one solution. You have to gain moral values and pass it to our kids. That's the only solution. Didn't say our religion or anything else. We cannot give to our children what we don't have. Therefore, we have to educate ourselves so we can educate our children and they make a better world. And they was completely disbelieving that possibility of anything better happening from now on.
What can we say?
Yeah. So my whole discussion is that for this question, we would get different answers, and I just witnessed that yesterday.
We have to stop here, Elmo.
Really?
Yep, 12:33.
I was just getting juicy, man. All right, so you continue here next year, I believe, right, John?
Yes. So we are closed the next couple of Sundays for Christmas and New Year's. SGNY is still open tomorrow, Tuesday, and Thursday. We have our regular meetings, and then we reopen on January 2nd. Okay. So we'll be closed from after Thursday, this Thursday, when we finish the Spirit's book by coincidence, right? If there's such a thing as coincidence, we finish the year with finishing the Spirit's book, and then we start again next year.
Yes.
Carol?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Elmo. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And thank you, Sarita, for reading today. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for the study of our medium's book, chapter being Theories. Intelligent action is involved in mediumship and phenomena. Kardec thankfully recognized the importance in determining the true source of this intelligence beyond theories. Kardec actively sought and thoroughly researched the facts in order to provide accurate Spiritist explanations regarding mediumship and other subjects in the codification. There is nothing hidden or questioned that remains totally hidden. All will be revealed on the appropriate timeline for our evolutionary awareness and moral maturity. Again, we give thanks to the Spiritist benefactors and for the good spirits who are guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us, and for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, the counselors, the mediums, the workers, and everyone who has joined and is participating at SGNY. We pray for inner peace, and especially now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for SGNY and all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, expand, and be protected each hour of the day and night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and co-workers. May we remind ourselves to go forth now as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and of charity. So be it.